been a while, like almost 3 years actually, since I've uploaded anything major on YouTube. Just hadn't really had time to post. Just been busy with work. Been working on cars still a lot. Just hadn't had time to film it and edit and post, and you know, it takes a lot of time. But YouTube's something I've wanted to do for a while, so I'm gonna make myself make the time and start filming more, start posting about all my cars. I have bought more cars since I last posted, so I've got a lot to show you guys. Currently sitting in my 94 Civic hatchback, the EG, or technically EH, but everyone calls them the EG. It's white, blue interior, which I was really happy about. Got it from an older gentleman down the road from work for like $300. Needed a starter, threw the starter in there, started up first time. Decided to, as I do with pretty much all my cars, I was like, I'm going to clean the interior because it needed it. It was dusty, really dusty. Looked like it had hardly ever been cleaned or vacuumed or anything. But it was in surprisingly good shape despite that. Not a lot of things were ripped up or anything. Typical rip in the driver's seat like you see on most of the older Hondas. So I decided to take the interior out. Well, first thing I took out was, of course, the seats, but then the carpet. And notice that down here, the floor is now coated in PR15, and the reason I had to do that was because, let me see if I can get this to focus, you can actually see the texture of the floor now. There it goes. So there's a lot of texture on the floor from rust that was here. It was about down to here and then all the way up to the clutch pedal where the clutch master mounts up in there. I can't really get the best angle of it. You can kind of see it there. It was leaking to the inside and it leaked down the clutch pedal, which I've also coated in PR15, and I need to put my new pedal covers on. So I coated the entire floor, and I thought, why not do that section, the back section, which I'm sitting on and is covered in parts right now. Do the whole passenger section, the part where the seat mounts to, where the carpet pins in, and then the same on the other side. That drain hole beneath the back seat on both sides that can be prone to rust if water does get there. I thought I might as well go ahead and do those. I did all of the drain hole areas as well as the spare tire well. I need to go back and seam seal still in this area here along the bottom. I had to grind some of the seam sealer off because I thought I saw rust, but it was just rust sitting on top of the seam sealer, which I'm not really sure how that happens. But there was the one bad spot was here. If we can get that to focus. There's actually a hole through the body right there. Small, can't even fit a finger through it, but grinding it down to bare metal, got all the rust gone, and then coated over it. But I'm going to do the same thing with the seam sealer and just kind of coat this whole area so that nothing leaks. There's not much interior left in the car. In fact, there's pretty much nothing. Steering wheel, shifter, handbrake, and the rear seat belts, and that's honestly about it. I figured if I'm taking it all apart, I might as well take everything out, clean everything, coat the things that needed to be coated. Got a few of the steering wheel cover, the dash vent, ECU, glove box, a few things here that I just haven't put in the shop yet. I'll show you the rest of the interior here in a second and just do a quick walk around of the car itself. Needs paint, obviously. It's pretty clean overall body wise, except for this side. The passenger side was hit by a deer. I straightened the fender out best I could. You probably can't tell super well in video, but it's still a little bumpy. And then this door I have not fixed at all yet. The deer just kind of hit the fender, rolled against the door. There's a lot of dents in the door that I need to push out. And then there's a small dent in the quarter, which you also can't see all that well on video. It's kind of in that section there. Nothing major. Little scratch right there, probably an antler hit it or something. But overall, very nice car. It is, I think I mentioned, it's the CX model. So It does have AC, which not all the CXs did, but you know, crank windows, no sunroof. It's kind of cool. Still has the original dealership sticker on, all the way from Connecticut. The guy I bought it from, his mom bought it in Connecticut, moved down here shortly afterwards. She drove it for a while, then he got it and drove it for a while. Here's all the interior, dash, headliner, rear quarter panels. Headlights are DA Integra headlights. They don't go to the Civic. Here's the panels, the 8-pillar covers and the quarter window covers that I'm going to do in like a suede silver. The rest is going to stay blue. I just love the blue interior. I was very lucky to find one in really good shape, minus the typical, you know, rip in the seat. Oh, the seat's in great shape though. That's all the interior. Everything's cleaned. I just got to put everything back in the car. A lot of miles on the car. 276, almost 277. But it actually has more than that on it. The guy I got it from told me that the odometer had quit working a long time ago, so it's probably got over 300,000 miles on the car. Another thing I did in taking the interior apart, a lot of times you'll see, let me move that out of the way, and this, the backs of the back seats will be really rusted if they don't have, you know, something cover them, or if there's a lot of humidity in your area, or if they've gotten wet or something like that. So I actually took everything apart, took the metal frame out of the foam and the cloth cover, sanded it all down, and then just spray painted it black with the black rust converter, because they had some really bad rust on them, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it down the road when they were far worse, so I went ahead and took care of that. So I decided to restore the back of the seats, or the metal frame on the back of the seats. The seat itself is in great shape. Material's still fine, need to vacuum and clean them, but overall they're pretty good. Took the cover off, little plastic cover off of this. It was just one screw for the latch. I'm going to take all the hog rings out, which I'm using just a cutoff wheel on the Dremel. To cut them, grab them with the pliers, pull them out. There's the few that I've done. Take all that out, pull all this material back, take the metal frame out, sand it down, probably do rust converter, and then just paint it black. Here's the door panels. This is the driver's side. I'm thinking I'm going to rewrap just the centers with a blue suede, just because this has gotten so worn down just from like resting the arms on it and everything, getting in and out of the car. And then of course the window cranks usually leave a little bit of wear there, as well as right there, just from the hand motion of cranking the window. Passenger side, as usual, isn't quite as bad, but if I'm going to do one, I'm going to do both. The rest of the door panel's in great shape, like the leather and everything. Nothing's creased or torn or anything like that. Okay, so now that you're caught up on everything I've done to the car so far, taking out the interior, cleaning it, cleaning the inside of the car, coating the floors in PR15 to get rid of rust and prevent further rust, I want to show you what I'm going to do next to the car. So I bought the CRX, it's a 91 SI, it's in really rough shape, the hood's very hard to open, got it. So I had a motorcycle that I traded for the CRX, guy in Atlanta. It's a K24A. You can find the block stamp. So it's the K24A from Japan, out of the Honda Odyssey. I believe most of them came out of the Odysseys. I'm sure stuff like the Accord and TL and stuff had it too, but most people say it comes out of the Honda Odyssey. Want to paint the valve cover a different color, maybe a white or a blue, either to match the car color or the interior color of the car. It's got a decent manifold on. I'm not really sure what brand because the plate's been taken off. Throttle body transmission is out of a US spec Acura RSX base model, so it's the 5-speed, not the 6-speed unfortunately, but I could swap to the 6-speed eventually if I find a good one. A lot of really good swap parts. All the lines and stuff. Cables for the shifter, odds and ends in the boxes. Oh, and I did forget to mention too that the guy that I got the K24A from had built, well, not built, semi-built the motor, gapped the piston rings for boost, so if I want to go with a turbo setup one day I can, but for now I'm probably just going to leave it all motor and enjoy it how it is first, because 200 horsepower in a car that weighs, even with a full interior, I'm guessing 2,200 pounds because this is a CX model, so it's one of the lightest ones. It'll be fun, even with just 200 horsepower. So I'm getting rid of the CRX, just getting the swap parts and the motor out of it, then it will be gone. So the next thing I'm going to do, because the motor swap with the K24 is going to take a while, still got to get a lot of swap parts together and get the motor out of the CRX, get it on a stand, make sure everything's good with it, put the valve cover gasket on and all. So that'll be a while before I get to that. So the next thing I'm going to do is take taillights off. The center taillights are fine. I put new gaskets on all 4 of them the other day from Resto Tuner. Really nice gaskets. I've tried making my own before. It's a painstaking process and they never turn out right. So Resto Tuner is definitely the way to go. This one had a hole drilled into it, I guess to let water out more than likely. So there's a lot of moisture behind the taillight. And I'll show you in just a minute. There's a little bit of rust, it seems like, behind the seam sealer that's on the body behind the taillights. So I'll get those out and then I'll show you guys the rust I'm working with. So here's what I'm dealing with. There may be some in this area here. Not really sure. Usually what you'll see is when it starts cracking, that's when you've got something going on behind there, like rust or just moisture. Up there is definitely some rust. So I'm going to grind all that down, probably start grinding this down, and if I see anything I'll keep going. If not, I'll stop and just coat back over with more seam sealer to smooth it off again. But I'll grind that down and show you guys from there. Okay, so here's what I'm working with after I took the taillight off. I've sanded some of the rust down already. It's not as extensive as I thought, thankfully. It doesn't go too far. It goes up in here just a little bit, but not far. It kind of stops right about where you can see it. Got to finish sanding a little bit of that off, and then up there as well. And we'll take the other taillight off next. And I've switched to my phone camera because I realized that my other camera was not focusing all that well or all that quickly. It was making a lot of noise. You can hear it way louder than I thought you could in the video. So I'm going to switch to my phone camera until I get a better camera for videoing. So yeah. The other side's not near as bad. The same spot on the driver's side is not messed up on the passenger side right here. Same little line of surface rust there, but that's no major issue. Only spot I'm really concerned about is this right here. I'm gonna grind this down and see how far that goes. Got a little bit of outer rust there. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that yet. It's not super bad, but I don't want it to keep crawling. And I'm not really sure if that outer body rust is related to that spot right there, but we will see. I'm gonna start sanding that down and I'll show you guys in a minute. Okay, so here's what I'm dealing with now. Had to go pretty far back in there to get all that rust. Pretty sure I've made it all the way back, but I'm gonna coat over that with a PR15, seam seal back over it. Now that I've got my flashlight, I can show you a better shot of the inside there. It's pretty rough. Here's what I got so far. And I keep going. It looks like it crawls up the seam sealer a little bit from where you can see that it's at. Maybe a little bit down. I'm just going to keep going until I get to some nice clean bare metal, sand it down, and coat it from there. Well, bad news. See the light from the flashlight coming through. I knew Honda metal was thin, but I did not realize it was that thin. So, also a hole right there now where I went completely through the seam sealer and had no idea that I was reaching the outside. But I mean, it's repairable. Probably gonna have to get the welder out or something. try to fill it in the best I can. That just means all that too, all this down here, and then probably that one there is going to be a hole in the metal. So I'm just going to keep going. May have to take the rear bumper off to get from behind it. And we'll weld in metal, seam seal, and just ride with it. The farther I dig, the more rust I find. So I showed you guys that already. Turn the fan off so there's not wind noise. Showed you that already. Little pinhole, not super bad. Probably hit it with the welder and smooth it off and it'll be fine. I saw some rust there and was like, let me keep chasing it. And let me go down a little further. Okay. You can actually see the inside of the car on the right side of the screen there. Got all the seam sealer out. And I just now started going down here. See if I can get some better light on it. You can see some holes in the body. Some on the side there. So there's a little bit more seam sealer I got to get out, but at least it's manageable. Alright, both sides are sanded down, ready to be coated. This one wasn't near as bad. Did have one little hole on the side right there, but it wasn't as bad as the passenger side. So here's the section where that first hole was. I drilled it out a bit more with the Dremel just to get a nice even circle there, nice clean edges to weld to. Found two small ones, there's one there. Did the same thing with the Dremel and one there. These are some spots where there's just a little bit more rust. I hit with the diamond bit just to kind of sand them down a little bit more. Gonna weld them next. Alright, this did not turn out how I wanted it to. I'm new to welding, so if you're a welder, forgive me. I know this looks horrible. There's still a good bit of holes in the metal. It just kept blowing through in a lot of spots. I didn't have a copper backing plate, so I was using pennies. Supposedly if you use any of the pre-1982 pennies, they're 95% copper instead of just copper-coated zinc like the new pennies are. So I was using those, just taped them to the back inside the car. Turned out better than it was. At least there's not huge holes in the metal. I'll go back with some body sealer and seal it up and then paint over it. Maybe one day when I get better at welding, I'll go back and redo it a lot better. So I've done Duraglass Bondo on this side, pushed it through to the outside, sanded it smooth. I'm going to do some etching primer next. Just got the Bondo on, gonna let that dry and then sand it to shape. Got the Bondo sanded down, ready for paint, and another little scratch that was there that had some rust. I'm gonna go ahead and paint that too. Alright, first coat of seam sealer is done. Gonna go back with another here in a second. Get the back side done as well. Still gotta do this side, haven't started on it yet. But I did get the side painted after I did the Bondo and all. Also somewhat fixed the scratch from the antler, what I can assume was the antler from the deer hitting the car right there. This turned out really well. Can hardly tell anything was even done to it. Paint blended really nice. I used the, I think I have it in here, the PR15 top coat in gloss white. Turned out really good. Alright, taillights are back on, bumpers back on. That's pretty much it for this video. The next one I'm actually working on it right now. I'm gonna be putting the dash back in, getting the ECU back in first. Got the bracket coated in PR15, putting that back on now. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching.